Hey students, I hope you're doing well and that you've had a really good week. I took a look at those outlines, and any of you that resubmitted, I made sure to go back and give you a little bit more feedback. So I hope you found that helpful. Um, I wanted to do this little video just to go over a couple things that I saw consistently in hopes that it'll help you as you move into your drafting. So first, I want to talk about the thesis statement. The thing that I want to remind y'all about a thesis statement is it's always an argument. Whether you chose to do the compare and contrast with Washington and Du Bois or a traditional argument over the yellow wallpaper, your thesis should always be framed in an argument. I want to talk about the compare and contrast option for a minute. A lot of times, students think that when they write a compare and contrast, the only thing they're doing is telling me the differences and making statements. And that really could not be farther from the truth. It's never enough to do a simple comparison. So, for example, if you're talking about comparing and contrasting going to UNC and NC State, if you tell me all the differences and all the similarities, that's great. But what I also need to see is that at the end of you doing all of those comparisons, did you form an argument? Did you come up with something at the end of all of that to then say, and this is the conclusion that those comparisons brought me to? So, for example, if you said NC State versus UNC, there's way more to do at NC State. They have the state fair. They're right next to downtown Raleigh. UNC is in a smaller area of Durham, and just doesn't offer as much to do outside of the college. And then similarities. Both have great football fields. Both have great stadiums. Both have really good fan following where fans are really involved in the game. Okay. Once you've drawn those compare and contrast, you then need to come up with an argument for that. So maybe once you've done those comparisons, your argument is NC State is a much better option for someone who enjoys doing things outside of the college. Okay, so make sure when you're doing all those comparisons, you still frame somewhat of an argument when it's all said and done. And then finally, your thesis has to match what you write about in your topics. Some of you, I don't know if it's because you were using ChatGPT so much or you just weren't thinking critically, but some of you, your thesis statement was different than what you were using in your topic sentences. So make sure that whatever you're writing about in that thesis, whatever argument you come up with, that the topics to follow really align with what you are trying to then say. So now let's talk about your topic sentences. And remember, your topic sentences are the first sentence in each body paragraph. So the first question I'm going to say is, do your topics prove your thesis? Okay. Is what you said in your thesis what you're breaking down in your paper? And then the next one, is it argumentative in nature? Did you really frame an argument or are you just making statements? For example, if you say, um, in the yellow wallpaper, the narrator um, was making a lot of comments about the wallpapered room she was in. That's a statement. That is not an argument. Okay. If you then say the yellow wallpaper is symbolism for dot, 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 that could be formed in an argument. So make sure that number one, your topics are going back to your thesis, and then make sure you ask yourself, is my topic sentence argumentative in nature? And then I want to talk about your explanations. Each of your topics should have explanations from the text. You should have direct quotes or paraphrases that share where you got this information from. And that information has to be cited using MLA format. And then just remember something with citations and using textual evidence. If you use a quote of any sort, you have to then expand on that quote. Make sure that you're not just throwing it out there and then leaving it for the reader to understand. You have to frame a topic, expand on that topic, use textual evidence, talk about that textual evidence. What does it mean? What's the connection to the topic? And then use a summative sentence that kind of wraps that idea up. And then I also wanted to give you the three ways that you can cite information. You can, of course, use the author's name at the beginning of the sentence and then cite the page number with a period, making sure that you're putting your quotation marks before the citation and around the wording that you used. You can use the sentence and not have the author's name at the front, but then make sure you use the author's name and the page number in the in-text citation. And then finally, you can paraphrase. Paraphrase, again, you have to make sure you have those two components, the author's name and the page number, but you don't necessarily have to use specific text by text evidence or direct quote evidence from your text. I'm also going to put this in PowerPoint form so that you can go back and look at these citations, but make sure you note, put quotations around the evidence that you used that's verbatim, and then always make sure your period comes after your in-text citation. And then a few things to remember. Never write how you speak. We want to think about diction and word choice. Don't be too casual in your language where it sounds like you're talking rather than writing a formal paper. Use MLA format, double space, indent your new paragraphs. Make sure that you have headers that are appropriately placed. Make sure you have a title that doesn't just say literature essay, it needs to be creative. And then, of course, make sure you have a works cited page at the end. And then just remember creativity matters. Use your own writer's voice, not ChatGPT. A lot of you seem to have very similar papers. And I want you to know in the rubric, there's going to be a component for creativity. And so if all of you are literally writing about the very same thing in your paper, body paragraph 1, wallpaper, body paragraph 2, she's going insane, body paragraph 3, John is making her mad. That's a lack of creativity if 20 of you have that very same topic. That tells me you're pulling a lot off the internet. Make sure you're writing your own work. ChatGPT is great and it can be used to help you write better sentences. It can help you brainstorm ideas. But if you're copying and pasting, it's going to be very evident when I go to grade that paper. I hope you guys found this helpful. If you have any questions, reach out through Messenger or email, give me a call, shoot me a text. Remember, rough drafts don't have to be perfect. Don't stress yourself out. Get your ideas down on paper. I'll give you feedback. And then think about making an appointment with a writing center, coming and seeing me during my office hours so that you can make sure that the work that you're creating is your very best. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk soon.